young and they need to get better life for their children, to go do things that they have to do with a bad method. Do you get what I mean? So it just depends on how important it is to you as well to follow Allah's rules as well. But also sometimes for a mother it could be more important for her to not to make that sin, but then help better their children's life in this day and age. Do you understand what I mean?
But I do.
Like
Some
mortgages, for
people.
example,
Look, are there people not able to live under a roof without mortgages?
They are.
can.
But
can.
the difference is there's scenarios that are different. Everyone's situation is different. Yeah. For example, if you have money, let's say you have a job. Yeah. It's very hard for you to pay rent, and you have a job, and you can get a mortgage. Yeah. It's very hard for you to live in that house by rent. Yeah. You've never been on the council. You're just paying rent. Let's say you need to get a mortgage to make sure that everything's stable. Let's say I've got cancer and I'm dying, and I know my children are not going to have anything. They're going to have to go through hell to get through this. If I know I can get a house which is on mortgage, but I know I'm doing it for the better, why would I not?
Are you saying the mortgage is less than the rent? Is that what happens normally?
No, I'm saying if I have, let's say, you have to, let's say someone can, if I'm earning 100 grand a year, I can get a mortgage for like 300 grand. Yes, that's what I'm saying. For example, you can get a mortgage by your work, by how much you earn by salary, yes? So even if I don't have money in my hand, let's say I've got £10,000, either I can pay £10,000 for the next 10 months rent, or I can put it in and get a mortgage for a house. Yeah? Now, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to sin, but I'm ill and I've got a son, and if that 10 months after that he's got nothing.
In the Quran, Allah says, thank you. In the Quran, Allah talks about, how people sometimes, our children and so on, their provision is also from Allah.
I know.
Yep.
And that's not
so you might feel like I need to do something by even the wrong method, even if you didn't do anything. Their provision will come to them.
Allah will help you.
Whatever provision it is, right?
What if,
so
the camera, watch out.
What if he doesn't?
But
Allah has said this is the difference.
I'm saying in this life, yeah? Okay. There's children starving.
Yes.
There's children starving in the world.
Yes.
There's children's mothers and fathers that have died.
Are you saying why is that? Why did God do that?
No. I'm saying why you do that. You're saying Allah will know what to do. Like He will help them.
Yes.
But there's people in the world that have been left starving. So there's certain people that won't get the help. So as a mother, as a father, if any of you have children, I don't, but I'm just saying, I know to me, my child will be the most important thing in the world. Yeah. There's nothing else that will come before my child, right? And I know that before I'm even a parent. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that for me, it's one choice. I go the wrong way and I take that bad method, but I know I'm sinning, or I know I'm helping my child. Now in my mind, in my, God forbid, but my deathbed, I'm lying down, I'm ill, let's say, and in my mind I'm worrying, thinking, oh my God, my child. I can't at that moment rely on God helping them, because I don't know. That's maybe not the path that God wants them to go. Do you understand what I mean? So
from here, what's missing is the what we call total reliance on God. If you trust God, total reliance. You rely on God, no doubt about it. But what we need to really inculcate within ourselves is the total reliance on God. Tawakkul Allah, right? Total reliance means you trust in Allah's commands and His, provisions that He's going to give you and so on and so forth. If we know that this is the case, just for example, we know that Allah is not going to burden us anything beyond that we can bear. Allah tells us in the Quran, He will not burden us anything beyond we can bear. If we can appreciate,
people are burdened. Like there's people that are suffering in the world. So I know. I'm not saying there shouldn't be people suffering, but I'm saying that might be God's path for them. But my point is, as a human being, as a person, trusting all my trust into God, it could go either way. Maybe God's path for my son is to be homeless. That's my responsibility.
One other thing, though, sister.
One moment. So I'm leaving that into trust of either God completely or my trust, knowing that I'm going to make a life for my son. So I could leave my trust into Allah, and he could become homeless.
Yes.
As his path.
Just to make on this point.
Or I could go and get a mortgage, and he can become the most happy living child ever.
in front of your eyes, and then later he could become homeless.
No.
Is this true?
No. That's true. It can be. But in front of my eyes, knowing that as long as I must have given him everything. My point is that if you know your son's either you just leave your son, or you know you can give him a house, what would you do?
I would leave my son if the ruling. Let's put it this way, I would obey Allah. Why? As brother Mansur, and that's the guy. I heard of him. As brother Mansur stated, it's late, hungry, cold. It happens. If you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I know that if I trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I might see my son poor today, but tomorrow he may well be the richest man. I know that if I leave it to Allah, the right thing will happen. But what I don't know, shall I tell you what I don't know? I can do everything I want under this sky, to make him the most successful man in the world. But tomorrow, he'll be okay.
Happy.
But tomorrow, happy. But tomorrow, he'll fail, because the trust in Allah is what delivers you to true happiness.
But
that's the belief, that's the guidance,
But it's you can make that choice, though, can't you?
Yeah.
You either trust in him, or you make your decision to buy a house.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a different choice there, isn't there?
Yes,
and there's two outcomes.
Watch this. So can I just give an example? You're talking
Just
about
want
kids.
to bring the example of the unfortunate children in Syria, right? Those children were actually not poor. There were some of them from the very prosperous families, and their parents may have left them with a good intention and good approach and good method to have all of them for them, the wealth for them, or they may have done nothing, and they were prosperous, right, by themselves. They're in a very rich family. But what happened is, over the turn of this war, they became very, destitute and totally homeless on nothing. So even if, for example, you think that I need to leave my children with something so that they can look after themselves and they don't have any problems, even if you do that, things can change and still they become poor.
Yes,
so what you're trying to do is just as a normal feeling that you have as a parent, that you want to do something good for your children.
Yeah.
But if you think there's another element which is quite missing here. Whatever we do, yes, we have our feelings and so on, but also Allah has placed us and He hasn't just left us like this.
Yes.
He says that وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. I may have not recited the Quranic ayah exactly, but I think this is how it goes. Okay? Allah will certainly test us with something of the fear, loss of life, loss of property and so on fruits and cultivation and so on and so forth. So there's always going to be some elements of test involved, elements of test. So it may be that some individual is being tested and see, now look, you want to do good, you've got this option to do in a wrongful way or abstaining from a wrongful way.
But in a
that could
wrong
be
method. But
wrong method.
Good.
Intention is good. Intention is good. The question, intention is good, but are you actually doing it in the right way or not? It could be a test on you. So you will fail that test to provide that good.
But for my children.
For whoever. For
There's
whoever.
a difference of my children to whoever.
But your children, you see, look, your life is given as an amana, what we call a trust from God to you.
Yes.
It's not even your life. He created this life and He can take it away.
That's like that's
your
being
children,
selfish. If I don't,
but your children also is an amana or trust from God to you.
Yeah, but my point is that if I was to, let's say that's my scenario I'm giving, yeah? So there can be loads of different scenarios, you're right. I can give my son the house and buy the mortgage and I've sinned and 10 years time he can be poor.
Yeah.
Back to the same point, I know. But let's just say in my heart, I'm ill and I know that this is the right thing to do for him. If I say no, for me it's about that's more selfish because I don't want to do it because I don't want to sin myself. So for me, it's like I'm leaving my son there to kind of.
But do you trust in God? But if you trusted in God, it's about the trust in God, sister. This is the issue, isn't it?
It's like saying, okay, I'm going to let my son go over there. I'm going to trust in God.
Where?
No,
but
let him walk on his own.
No. That's not what's stated, isn't it, sister? So
sorry.
The thing is, for example, what you're saying over there, that's trust. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ even says this in a hadith about tying a camel. Is it trust in God, trust in Allah, but still tie your camel? What does that mean? It means we don't just, just because I trust in Allah, it doesn't mean like, oh, okay, bro, jump off the cliff, you'll be fine, trust me, you believe it, right? The truth is, though, he probably would be fine. No, you wouldn't, sorry, change. The fact of the matter is, sister, look, there's things we see here where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us. You might see it that buying that house is goodness for your son. But the fact is, what we call barakah, you might have heard of this, because I have a feeling, she knows certain things about Islam. Barakah, the goodness, yeah? So you might think you're doing something good, yeah? But in the end, because you've gone against good, you won't get that good. This is how it works, sister.
But that's me being
That's
selfish.
the difference
But what about my son? I'm thinking about myself, thinking, for me, it's that.
If you trust, let's just hypothetically say you trusted God. Let's just say, yeah? If you read the Quran, you understood. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whenever he's about to do a good to somebody, he'll test them with a great difficulty. Why?
Okay.
The average person will say, why? But the thing is, the person's going to get good. He's testing their iman, their faith, yeah? And then he's going to give them even more good. So if he's testing your good, you may well say that I'm doing this for my son, yeah?
But then it's like that test could be against your son.
No, the test is against you. In
No,
that
it
scenario.
could be. For me,
Your son doesn't know either way, correct? In the scenario
yes, but
that you
then,
made up.
Then God could be testing you
Yes.
against your son as well, can't he?
Yes, there could be multiple tests going on. Guys, there's
so then
cameras over there, sorry.
that's-
Thanks.
So that
There's
comes down
multiple
to
tests,
either
right?
you
Yes.
having first.
Yes.
That's when people say I love God first and my faith first and then my son.
Yeah.
That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you have to understand.
And
what's
trusting
more
though.
important.
Everything will be alright for your son.
Trusting, yes, but
Just on this issue, remember the story,
It's a bit of a
Quran.
difficult issue.
Remember the story in the Quran about Ibrahim alayhi salam
yes, about
and
the
his
son.
and his son. Now, he loves his son more than perhaps his own self. He loved him. But what did he do?
He asked him to sacrifice his son.
In his dream, he saw that Allah was commanding him in the dream to sacrifice something which is dearest to him. And so he did, even though that was dearest to him.
And personally, I don't think I would do it.
So this comes
That's why he's a
from
prophet.
the example. The example illustrates how does one have this total trust and reliance to Allah. So you, as a very noble person, kind and compassionate person, we just need to connect to God a bit more.
I understand.
That's
you, but
that's
for
the,
me, in
that's
my
all
heart,
I can see in
for
the
me,
discussion.
In my heart, it would be so. If, for example, I knew it was God and God came down and told me I have to sacrifice my son. For me, in my heart, even though that God is there for me and I have that belief and I have that connection, I have that goodness inside of me. That goodness inside of me would tell me not to do it, even if it means that something will happen to me, because that is my son. And for me, I am in this world. Right, and I have been given that one son in this world, and that in this world is the most important thing for me. Not in the hereafter, but I'm saying in this world. So for me, my whole 100% mind and life and my life efforts is on my son. So if someone was telling me to sacrifice him, even if it's a test, I think I would say no. Do you get what I mean? For me, I can't understand it to that level.
So this, as I said, the connection is to do about connecting in love. So if you love someone, you would do all that you want for them, right?
Yes,
Isn't
yes,
it?
yes.
You would you would do everything for your son
Yeah.
if you love your son,
Yeah.
right?
That's the same with
You-
God.
Yeah. So that's the balance one needs to make.
But the difference is, if Allah loves me so much, He shouldn't put me in that situation to make me think, even if it's a test. Because before He knew it was a test, He thought it was real. So if Allah loves me so much, He shouldn't put me in that situation to want to make me think I'm hurting someone that I love more than anything in this world. Do you understand what I
The
mean?
love of Allah, there's quite a few different ways Allah loves. One is the general love that everyone has. Other love is something that you become recipient of by doing the actions of following the Prophet
Yes,
ﷺ.
yes.
As I showed you earlier. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي وَأُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. If you love Allah, then follow the Prophet, then Allah will love you. So this is conditional.
Okay, so
conditional
then
love.
He'll love you.
Yeah. So one is a general love, everyone. Like for example, you're breathing, for example. You know, whether the Prophet said or not, God is already giving you this facility to breathe. It's from His love, from His mercy, from His blessing, from His favor, from His ni'mah.
Yes.
But there are other levels of love where one needs to be recipient of.
Yes.
Recipient. To be that recipient, we have to demonstrate ourselves that yes, we love you, and Allah then automatically loves us,
Yes.
as He said.
I understand that.
Yeah. So that's the difference. I think if you work on this, if I were to leave you with this one verse alone and say contemplate it, all of that discussion would have based on that ayah already. So we should leave that for now. I think as we understand
Yes.
from here, is our connection with Allah.
It is.
Because you
It's
already
how,
have connection,
it's how close you are with Allah.
Allah,
That's
and
it.
how we see ourselves,
Yes.
the way Allah has created us, and for what reason. So all that I have, me and my children and so on, my
But
wealth,
I do
my
know
family.
even in the Quran it says that there's certain people that haven't been religious in their life, even Christians, who can go still to heaven depending on the person you have been, and that's up to God to judge.
That's a
So,
different
do you
thing.
know what I mean?
That's a
So
different thing already. But there are people who have not heard of anything about prophets and religion.
Yes, that's
but Allah
different,
will judge them in a different way, because Allah will judge them with the levels of their aql, the intellect. Have they used their aql and abandoned and shunned the worship of the creation and said, look, whoever you are, I accept you. People can do that easily without having no knowledge from anyone. Okay, this is how they will be judged. So these are all catered for in the Quran and the religion of Islam. So I think we leave it to this point where we understand where the issues are.
Yes.
Yeah. Issues are. It's not about the nitty-gritty details here and there, but it's actually certain principles.
Yes.
Yeah. If we work on these principles and we reconnect ourselves to Allah, we all are trying to connect ourselves to Allah. If we connect ourselves in a much more improved way, in a better way, in a closer way to Allah, and that's where we will see where the solutions are for our life here and the hereafter. I'm sure we all agree with all of that.
Good conversation.
Okay, take care. Okay.
You too.
What was your name?
Alan?
Alan. Okay.
Alan, yeah.
What was your name? Amir. Okay. Take
And you?
good care. Mansur. Mansur.
Come back in and show.
So keep on reading the Quran. I'm sure you do read. Keep on reading and reflecting and questioning. If you come back again, we can have another discussion.
Nice conversation.
Okay.
Take care.